What is up, guys? It's your boy Torius back again with another video. I'm gonna be talking about the top 10 books that I've read in 2020. Right? So with that being said, like the video, comment below what you think, subscribe if you're new. Let's get into it. Boom. The first book, actually I'm gonna start with number 10, right? Because last year I read a lot of books, like a lot of books. Honestly, I don't remember what I read last year and this year, so I'm gonna say all the books that I read. Number 10, Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza. This is one of my favorite books, actually, because it made me really understand a lot of things that I didn't know before. Like the power, like what metaphysics really is, right? Like, to me, metaphysics is basically just like the gap between spirituality and religion, right, and science. Basically, I mean, yeah, it's basically the gap between spirituality, religion, and science, right? Like, religion not so much, because religion is basically just spirituality, but it's just like the gap between those two, right? It's the bridge. Because before I used to be like super into science and shit, right? Like I was always like, oh, science this, science that, woo, right? So it was always like science. But now, after reading like those books and shit, like I've had like spiritual experiences, and reading those books really put it all into perspective, right? It really put it all into terms that I could understand with my scientific mind, right? Like, my mind is very scientific. And it realized a lot of things that I was understanding now. So, like, some of those things I understood was, like energy, electrons, and shit like that. He breaks it down, like, he basically breaks down what energy is, right? Like atoms and all that shit, and how like all that stuff like fluctuates, and it all really matters, right? Like matter. Atoms create matter, that's why they matter. But I really hugely recommend it. The next book I recommend is another one by Dr. Joe Dispenza, Changing the Habit of Being Yourself, right? Because that one, like, it's Becoming Supernatural is cool. Like, I fucked with it, but Changing the Habit of Being Yourself really made me really understand, like, okay, that's me, and that's why I do the things that I do. It like makes you understand human behavior, right? Like, I really want to read both of those books again, because now I have like more insight. Because it's like every time you read these books, it's like you're reading a different book. You feel me? Like it's like, yeah, because you understand more things about it, right? The next one would be The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. That one was really good because I had an acid trip, right? And it made while I was on acid, it made me understand like what it meant to really be in the moment, right? Like, to really be with this moment. Like, right now, like, if you stop this video right now, like, that's the moment. You feel me? Like, this moment. And it breaks it down like suffering is only in the moment. Like, I'm just gonna say the things that I remember from the books, right? Like, from what I remember from reading that book is that suffering is only in the moment. And it's funny because I was like going through some heartbreak at that time, right? Like, my heart was just like shattered and shit. And it was funny because that book really helped me to feel better, because I was like going through a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, a lot of like fucking crazy shit, right? Like, my emotions were all over the place. And that book really put into perspective that you only feel emotions if you're not in the now. Because if you're in the now and you're just looking around and shit, then you're Gucci. You're just like, okay, I'm here. And because it's like, if you're thinking too much, right? Like, if you think and then you're just like over here, but if you think and you're over there in the past, or if you think in the future, then you're hurting, right? But the thing is if you're just like here and you're just looking around and you just stop your mind for a second, then there's no pain, there's no hurting. And I really like the style of it. I listened to like the audiobook, right? And in the audiobook, he basically goes through like a Q&A style, right? Like someone asks a question and then he answers it, right? And it was really, that's why I liked it. Honestly, when I listened to the audiobook of it, he talks super slow, so I had to, because he's like, be in the know. And I can't fuck with that shit, so I had to like 2x that bitch. You feel me? You feel me though? I had to turn the speed up because that shit was way too slow for me. Because I usually listen to things like at a really fast pace. I like a lot of energy. You feel me? Like I like things to have like a lot of energy. I don't like chill things. I don't like being chill. I like to be chilling myself. But like when it comes to things, like I like to be like a lot of energy, right? What other books have I read? Number 7 would be The Untethered Soul, right? The Untethered Soul. That was a really good book. It basically explains about that's where I learned about chakras, right? Because The Untethered Soul explains about like the chakra centers and all the different centers. Becoming Supernatural talks about the same thing. In Becoming Supernatural, he explains about chakra centers and all that stuff, and I didn't really understand that stuff. Like I would always hear people talk about chakras, and like I know about it from Naruto, but I never like understood it, right? But that book, The Untethered Soul, really helped me understand that, and it helped me understand myself more. It was another mind book, another book about like, stop, your mind and shit. The number 6 was The Science of Getting Rich, right? The Science of Getting Rich. I like that book because it made me understand that what I really got from it and I took from it was there's only 2 ways to make money, right? Or like the 2 best ways to make money are actually not the best ways, but there's 2 ways to make money. And people are either in like a competitive style of making money, or they're in a creative style of making money, right? And it was basically saying that the best way to make money is to be a creative style, right? Because other people, you can try to copy the competition as much as you want, and that's what I did with like 6 feet. I basically just copied No Jumper, and I was just like, let me copy him, and it got me pretty successful with it, but I didn't get to where I could have been because I was just copying everyone. But it made me understand the best thing to do is just to instead of copying is just create something better, make something better than the competition. Because the thing is, I always felt like everything was always already here, you feel me? Like, I always felt like everything was just here already, and we didn't really need anything else because we're just here, you feel me? And everything's perfect. But now I understand, like, you could just take shit out of your head and put it into the world, you feel me? So The Science of Getting Rich, that one's really good. Number 5, I would say The Body Keeps the Score, right? The Body Keeps the Score is such a good book. It's a great book, actually, because it's basically about like this it's not about anything, but it's like the works and the perspective of a trauma psychiatrist or psychologist or whatever he is. And it's funny because I listened to it right at the time when my grandfather died, passed away, right? And during that time, it made me. I was seeing my family in a very vulnerable state, especially my mother. And the thing is like she had a lot of trauma with him, right? And I saw it all just like coming out, right? Like I saw it all coming out of her. And it's funny because like when I read these books, it's like my reality reflects the books, right? Like shit that like I'll just like something will happen in my life, and I'll listen to the book, and the book will be like, oh, okay, and it's like, okay, this shit happened, and then now the book is explaining it. So I feel like listening to audiobooks is like such a great thing. Even movies, like maybe sometimes movies. My bad, guys. I have something in my stomach. I can't get the air in my stomach. But yeah, The Body Keeps the Score. That one's really good. What else? What other books did I read? I'm trying to think of the name. The Millionaire Mind, right? How Millionaires Think. The Millionaire Mind. That one's a great book. The Millionaire Mind. I forgot who wrote it. Alright. Number 4, The Millionaire Mind, right? That one's a good book because it explains how millionaires think. And the thing is like I've always like listened to like interviews, like podcasts, books. I listen to other books and shit about like about money. But this one, it explained. They would always like I don't know. I feel like the information was kind of funny in all of them, right? Because they didn't really explain to me. They didn't really explain to me how to make the money, but this book, it really changed my mindset, right? It made my mindset understand like, okay, this is how you make that money. Like this, like one thing I took from that book was that millionaires don't see money the same way as poor people, right? Because poor people see money as like, oh, okay, money, like rich. It's more about like how you see rich people, right? Because when you see rich people, you see them as like, oh, eat the rich, oh, they're filthy rich. It makes rich people seem dirty and like evil and shit. But the thing is, rich people aren't really that. Like they're chilling. Like it made me understand like rich people are cool. You know what I mean? Like I met cool ass rich people, and I met horrible rich people. Not horrible, but like mean. But yeah, The Millionaire Mind. What else? Number 3, another book about money. It's a more worldly book, right? As Frederick Dawson would say. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? By Robert Kiyosaki. I know this is like the book that everybody reads. Like anytime I listen to like a YouTuber, they like a successful YouTuber, they always say the same thing, like, oh, I listened to Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and then I got rich. And because honestly, that shit really does change your mind, right? It really makes you understand money. Like it makes you like, it's the same thing. It's just a mindset shift, right? Like from The Millionaire Mind, one thing I learned, like one thing the book talks about is homeboy that wrote it says that every time he sees a coin, no matter how frivolous, no matter how little the coin is on the floor, he'll pick it up. Like even if it's not a coin, even if it looks like money, right? Like even if it just looks like money, he'll still pick it up. And I thought that was dope. He picks it up. He says, "I'm a money magnet," right? He says, "I'm a money magnet. Money flows to me abundantly." And I started doing that, and it's so funny because one day, it was Rolling Loud, right? I was at Rolling Loud. It was the last time I was at Rolling Loud, and I'm just walking, right? I just got so used to picking up money on the floor that I would see I would see like a coin, and I don't care like if it was a penny or nothing, I'll pick it up, right? Yesterday I was at Taco Bell, and I had to like return my order, and I walked to the thing, and there was some money on the floor. I picked that shit up, right? So I'm always picking that shit up, and so I'm just always used to picking up money from the floor. And one day when I was at Rolling Loud, I just look on the floor and I see $1, and I was like, oh shit, there's $1 on the floor. It's my lucky day. Not only was it $1, right? I pick it up and it was 2 $20 bills. 2 crispy ass $20 bills on the floor, right? And it's so funny because I gave one to my homeboy, right? I was like, oh shit, I found $40 on the floor. You feel me? And I was like, shit, I'm lucky to find a penny on the floor sometimes. And my nigga, I found $40. That's crazy. You feel me? So I pick it up, and it's funny because I told my brother, and I was like, oh, you know what, I went to Rolling Loud, because he was afraid of Rolling Loud because of like COVID and shit, and then the building fell, and he's like, oh, Rolling Loud. But then I was like, oh, guess what? I found $40 on the floor. And he's like, and he said to me was, oh, that means somebody lost $40. And it was like, that's how I know you ain't read Rich Dad Poor Dad. Anyways, number 2. What was the number 2 book I read? The Way of the Superior Man, right? That one was like a whole paradigm shift for me, because that made me understand, like, oh shit, the Way of the Superior Man. Because I was reading that book, like, that was like my Bible, right? Like, that shit was my fucking, I was listening to that shit like every fucking day, right? Like every single fucking day, I was just like driving to work to my crappy ass job and just listening to The Way of the Superior Man. And it was this dude named Cecil, and he was narrating, because I listened to Audible or like YouTube and shit. And you know, that shit was it was like life changing, right? Because I didn't understand. It made me understand the differences between the polarity of masculine and feminine, right? It made me understand that, damn, I was living life wrong this whole time. But yeah, The Way of the Superior Man definitely is worth the check out. That, because the thing is, I read so many books last year. Like I don't know. Like I was just listening to so many books, because I was just on YouTube and just listening to a bunch of books. Number 1 would have been No More Mr. Nice Guy. By I forgot his name. His name was like Robert or something. But I don't know if that's my number 1 book, like for the video's sake. Because the thing is, no. Actually, you know what? It's like a tie between No More Mr. Nice Guy, because that shit changed my made me understand like why I was the way I was, you know, like why I was always so shy and awkward, and I was always so nice all the time, especially with girls. Because I was always just like, damn, I'm just like this nice guy, and I didn't realize I had like nice guy syndrome, and I was like a little beta male, you feel me? But that book got me to get my shit together and get my act together. But the real number 1 is called Levels of Energy by Frederick Dodson. Because I had a mushroom trip, right? Like, honestly, like they say like don't do drugs, right? I've never been like that interested in drugs, but I've always been interested in the drugs that were like hallucinogens, right? Like, I've always been interested in like weed, ayahuasca, LSD, mushrooms, like all that shit always seemed like fun to me, because I always was like, damn, you can change how like all this shit looks. Like that's crazy, right? Like how do you even think of that? But whatever. So I would just like I took mushrooms, right? It was my very first mushroom trip, and it made me understand energy, and it made me really understand energy, right? And I was like, damn, that's crazy. That's no wonder like my life is how it is, because I've always been low energy. Like my energy's always been like very like exactly right? My energy's been real low all the time, always. And I always wanted to just like, I realized like even just now I just went to Publix and I had so much energy. I went to this girl and I was just talking to her, right? Got her number or whatever. She gave her my number and all that stuff, and I was so like it was just like off a hitch, right? Dumbass nigga, bruh. So basically I park up, right? And I see this girl and she's just chilling on her phone and shit, and she had her window down. And so then I just go to her, I'm like, because that's how she had tattoos and shit. I was like, hey, you trying to do any more tattoos? And she's like, oh. She's like, yeah. And then homeboy, because the thing is I had so much energy, right? And when you have that much energy attracts more energy. So it's like, sometimes I be radiating it, right? Because I could see people following me and try to take my energy and whatever. So I was like talking to her, and then homeboy just goes, he's like, hey, where's the Publix? Like, nigga, it's right there, stupid. You're there, dummy. Like, how do you not see the Publix? Crazy man. Just cop blocking and shit, you feel me? And the thing is, I feel like he was cop blocking her because he wanted my energy. This weird shit, right? Because she was mid. So, you know, like, why the fuck would he ask her? She's in the car. And why didn't he just look? He's there. There's one place. It's the Publix. See, because people are dumb. But whatever. Speaking of levels of energy, maybe understand what the O means. So read that by Frederick Dodson. It's a great ass author. Because the thing is, I've read like most of his work. For the lion. That was another book I liked. It was body language, right? It made me understand like the nose. Like when you touch your nose, it means that you don't believe what you're saying, right? If you say something or you touch your nose, then you don't believe it. Just like Pinocchio, right? Because in Pinocchio, what happens when his nose grew bigger? Whenever, all right, his nose grew bigger every time he lied, right? So that's what happens when it comes from like real human behavior. Like when you lie, your nose just like it gets itchy and shit, so you want to touch it. So if ever someone's lying to you, they're touching their nose a lot. But yeah, Frederick Dodson, all his books, but levels of energy made me really understand energy. And it's like it was so crazy because I feel like books get revealed to me after, like, in time, right? Like as time goes on, more and more books just reveal themselves, right? Like, you know, when you're playing a game and then you're just walking and then all of a sudden you get to a level and you have to beat this area, and then once you beat that area, then you can go on to the next one, right? Like it just like reveals itself and you're like, oh shit, look, I can go here now. Like especially when you're playing like those RPG Zelda games. And like in the beginning of the game, you can't go somewhere, but then like later on, you like unlock a place, and you're just like, oh, okay, now I can go here. Damn. But yeah, so yeah, anything by Frederick Dodson. And with that being said, I'm gonna end the video here. Like the video, comment below what you think about it. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments. Subscribe if you're new. And with that being said, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.